and welcome to the Divorced Women's Guide podcast, where we talk about the things us divorcees are thinking, but not always talking about, as we turn our divorce into the best gift we've ever been given. And I do so with a little bit of sass and a whole lot of class. I am your host, Wendy Sterling, founder of the Divorce Rehab. I am here to support you in this transition phase of your life so you can start your new best chapter on your own terms. After all, that's what I did after my own divorce. And now it is my mission to change the conversation around divorce and help you see why your divorce, like mine, was the best gift you ever received. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Divorced Woman's Guide podcast. This is Wendy, and today's topic is going to be about grief and divorce. And the way that I am breaking down our conversation today is around, number one, what I believe the stages of grief that we go through when we get divorced are. Number two, I will share with you guys different ways that you will be able to move through your grief that you're experiencing as a result of your divorce. And lastly, I'm going to share some tips with you all on how it is that you can start coping with your grief after divorce. So it's no secret that no one's divorce is the same, right? We're all different, and divorce affects us in so many different ways. But whatever your situation and circumstances are around your divorce, you are bound to feel a wide range of emotions, whether that be stress, anxiety, pain, sadness, fear, loss. So many of you are probably thinking all of the above, and that's totally normal. And I think that the way in which we can start breaking this down is by walking you through what I believe the 7 stages of grief are. And I think that it helps to share and just for you to remember and know that the emotions you're feeling are totally normal, and you're not the only one experiencing them. Others are feeling the same way that you are. And also remember that they're not feeling them in the exact same order, right? When you're going through a divorce, we're all experiencing a form of loss, and it is natural for us to feel grief. But what grief looks like and feels like is very different around our losses. And many times we think that we grieve for the loss of a relationship that we expected would last forever. We grieve a future that we had planned and envisioned, and now we know that that's not going to happen. And although not everyone will experience all or even any of these stages, it's useful to just understand what they are, and you'll be able to identify perhaps where it is that you are as you are experiencing them. And remember that grief is different for every person. So you may begin coping with the loss in the bargaining stage and then find yourself in anger or denial next, right? So everybody's all over the place. Everybody's in their different place, and you may remain in one place for a lot longer than somebody else. And you may also skip stages entirely. So this isn't a perfect science. This is just different ones that are observed by many people. There's many articles about these too. And these are the ones that I truly believe are what we go through. So the first one is around shock and denial. Now, when you make the decision to get a divorce, or that decision is put upon you, you may react by acting as though nothing has happened. So that might be something along the lines of just saying, like, I'm upset, they're upset, it's going to pass, they'll feel differently tomorrow, or I'll probably feel differently tomorrow. You start doubting yourself. And you may carry on your normal life, going about your normal routines, and refuse to believe that the reality of what is actually happening is happening in your life. And this stage may also be characterized by a sense of shock. Sometimes it's described as feeling numb. Sometimes it's just being in complete disbelief as to what has happened. And although you may give the appearance that all things are normal, you may in fact only be just going through the motions of your day to day and letting that carry you through and avoiding what's actually going on. So, number two is pain and fear. So, of course, you're going through, I think, the largest and most enormous change in your life. And you may have been hurt really badly by the person you trusted the most in the world, or you may have to accept that a marriage that you have worked really hard for is just not going to work. And this is typically, or what you typically might be saying to yourself is, how could he do this to me? Is he being so selfish? Or how did I mess this up? What did I do wrong? And as the denial wears off, the reality of your situation starts sinking in, right? That's why you're saying those things to yourself. And so you may be feeling the loss that is happening is completely unbearable. And in some cases, you feel like you're making other people's lives harder because of what it is that you want and need. And as a mom, that's super uncomfortable because we always put everybody else first and we put ourselves last. So it's especially painful for us at this stage because we're feeling not only the loss of our marriage and the fear of what the future holds, but we feel really guilty about doing what we know is best for us because we don't want to hurt anybody else. And then the next stage that people experience, and again, this is not meant to be in any order, it's just the different stages, is anger. And this is usually when you're looking for someone to blame for what is happening in your life. And listen, you could very easily have completely justifiable anger towards your ex-spouse, or you may feel anger towards your in-laws, your own parents, friends, maybe even your kids. And this is the place where you may lash out. You may be telling, God or a higher power, universe, spirit, whatever resonates for you, that you'll do anything they ask if only they would provide you with some relief from what it is that you're feeling. And this is a time where you might be saying something along the lines of, oh, I hate him and he's going to regret this, or I can't stand him, or I can't stand what she's doing to me. And while it's normal to feel some degree of anger, if your feelings seem out of control and directed at the wrong people, you know how sometimes we can just lash out of nowhere, and sometimes it's at our kids, then what I actually recommend is that you ask for support, you ask for professional help. And a lot of times we get to this place when we're dealing with the anger of other people, and more specifically with our children, right? Sometimes our kids are having a lot of feelings. If they're younger, they don't know how to express them. They may be blaming you for the breakup of your family, or perhaps your ex might be feeling angry at you for having instigated the divorce. It's really necessary for you to get support around this so that you're not getting yourself into a place where you can't come out, or you're really just sinking down into a rabbit hole that you can't get out of. Number four is the bargaining stage. And listen, it's normal to try to avoid the inevitability of the end of your marriage by bargaining, right? Either with your ex, soon to be ex, or with yourself. So this is when you might be saying, oh, if only I had tried harder, or I spent more time with her, or, he would have stayed if I had done things differently. Or perhaps you're saying, well, maybe she'll give me another chance, and I'll be a better boyfriend, or, I promise I will dote on him more and give him everything that he asks. Well, you may promise to change certain behaviors if only you had another chance, but this is really only because you just want to stop the pain you're feeling. And it can also be an attempt to take back some control over the situation. And it's also not always based on what's really best for you, right? We're just trying to kind of grasp this, what I call like grasping at straws, of just trying to take a hold of anything to lessen what it is that you're going through, which honestly is not the best thing for you. Number five is the guilt stage. And this is where you're thinking that your divorce actually may not be your fault. And equally, you may not be able to lay the blame solely on your ex. So, usually at this stage, it's normal to think about how you could have done things differently or how you could have prevented certain situations and made your marriage work. And at this stage, we start questioning the efforts that we made in our marriage and in our behavior. And sometimes this results in us wanting to turn back the clock, hoping that, if we had done things differently, it could be different. We feel bad about the pain that we're causing everybody else because we're the ones who's miserable. We think that, by sucking it up, we're going to make things better and maybe we should stay and maybe this was a mistake. And all that's doing is hurting yourself. And I've said this before to so many clients. How many more years are you willing to sacrifice what is best for you for everybody else? Guilt is not real. It's something you put on yourself. It's something that your own negative inner voices are shaming you into believing, and it's not real. The next stage is the depression stage. And this is entirely normal to feel some degree of depression when you're going through a divorce. I know that I experienced this very much so. And this was a period for me and also for others where you feel isolation and loneliness during which you're processing and reflecting on all the losses. And perhaps this is a time where you might say to yourself, like, I'm never going to be able to go on. How do I go on without him? Or I'm never going to find love again. I'm doomed to fail with anyone else that comes into my life. And this is also a time where we have a really hard time sleeping. Even though you feel mentally and physically exhausted, you're waking up in the middle of the night, you're having a hard time falling asleep. Perhaps you're losing your appetite, you're overeating. Other times, like Lord knows I was like this, like I would get short-tempered, I would snap at those who were closest to me. And these symptoms seem like they're never going to end and they feel really harsh. And the thing that I can tell you guys is that it does pass, but sometimes when we get into this phase, we may need to ask for more help. And sometimes that's seeking medical help. And I say that as having done so myself. I mean, my therapist realized that aside from our sessions, she thought that it would be beneficial for me to also get help medically. And so I did go on an antidepressant because I needed to feel like my head was above water. I didn't want to feel different. I just wanted to not feel like everything, like even the most easy tasks felt hard. I wanted to just get my head above water. So I really recommend that you guys reach out to, a medical professional if you just are feeling like you're sinking and you can't get yourself up. There's no shame in it, and everybody needs support. So the last stage is the acceptance stage. And this is when you get to a place where you really truly accept your divorce. You accept your new single status, and you will realize that life has changed and it's not going to go back to the way that it was. And this is where you might be saying things like, oh, this was such a healthy choice for me. This is better for my kids. Or I know I have so much to offer somebody else. And, I can't wait until I meet them. And you start feeling okay and you start trusting and knowing that you're moving on. And as you start to embrace this new strength and allow yourself to believe in your ability to be resilient, you find that you're coping better and that you are surviving. And you know that you can start a new life. And although that might feel really scary, the experiences that you have been through will actually help you to move on with your next best life. And as I said before, guys, no one's divorce is the same, right? And, again, you're going through a big change, and just know that at any stage, it's normal to think about how you could have done things differently or how you could have prevented things. But grief is work, and it does a specific job. It's hard like any other type of work that you go about doing, but it actually has a definitive purpose and it has an end. And that's true when you allow yourself to grieve.
Hey, it's Wendy. I wanted to take a quick break from the conversation to say thank you for listening and to also share something really exciting that I am launching on June 9th. So I am putting together another free online summit called Beyond Divorce: Discover the Secrets to Disconnect, Set Boundaries, and Move Forward. So if you're somebody who's thinking about, or perhaps you're in the process of divorce, or even on the other side, and you're feeling stuck because the courts are closed and you think that you can't move forward, well, I'm here to tell you that that is just not true. The goal of this summit is to support you and to help you navigate the emotional side that you are currently struggling with. I'm interviewing over 33 experts about how to support your kids, how to set boundaries, co-parenting with a narcissist, how to practice self-compassion, how to be financially independent, conscious co-parenting, how to stay healthy, and so much more. I have had so many aha moments during all of these interviews, and I just know you will too. Oh, and by the way, each expert is providing a free gift just for you. So please visit beyonddivorcesummit.com to register for free. And now let's jump back into the conversation.
Many of you know, or those just tuning in and learning about me for the first time, I had been married for over 15 years, and suddenly I was faced with a midlife divorce. And to say that I was unspeakably sad about the whole thing is a major understatement. And what I've discovered after my own journey and after working in the field of divorce recovery for many, many years, the grief of divorce can't be hurried or sidestepped, guys. Recovery takes more time than we think it should. And when I went through my own divorce, and I mean, we're talking like heartbroken, sick to my stomach, deep sighing kind of a pain. I was feeling something I never experienced before, and I couldn't breathe. I never thought it was going to end. And everything in my life had a gray cloud following me. Remember Linus and the Peanuts episodes? Like, that's literally how I felt. And every breath and every move I took so much effort. I remember going to bed at night and staring at the empty pillow next to me. I remember staring at the ceiling and crying my eyes out. And as hard as I tried to pull myself out of it, I wasn't doing a very good job. Now, keep in mind that real grieving is actually a transformative process that allows you to feel the full weight of what is happening. It is happening for you. So it makes room for you to heal and begin to set the stage for creating a new future that is actually one that you get to design unapologetically. And there's 5 different ways that I used and also encourage my clients to work through the grief of divorce. And the first one is that big girls and real men do cry, guys, so give yourself permission. Don't beat yourself up about it. Acknowledge the pain. Take the time you need. Do whatever healthy and helpful things you need to do. And remember, tears are really therapeutic, guys. Yes, I know it doesn't make our eyes look very great, but they help you release the sadness and to start laying the foundation for your recovery. Another way to help you work through the grief of divorce is, while you're sobbing away, set boundaries with yourself, right? We sometimes don't allow ourselves to cry because we're really afraid that we're not going to be able to stop, right? Once we get going, we're gonna go and keep rolling and rolling and rolling, and there's no end at the bottom of the hill. Well, here's something that I tell my clients to do, which is to just set parameters around how long it is that you want to cry for, or perhaps you just need to go back to bed. Set a timer for how long you're going to do that, or maybe you just need to get out and take a walk for an hour. Go. When the time is over and you allow yourself that amount of time and you know that there's an end in sight for it, then you get to get back to where you were in your life. And believe it or not, you guys, your mindset is in a completely different place and you have new determination ahead of you. Number 3 is to decide your own course, even if others don't approve of it or don't understand it. So often others think we shouldn't be so upset about this. How many of you have had family members or friends say to you like, oh, so many people get divorced. You know, you're amongst a majority, or, oh, you're so much better off without her, or pull yourself together. You're going to find somebody else, or it's his loss. Now, you alone, guys, are the only person, and you are the expert in deciding what kind of grieving you need to do for yourself. So do me a favor, do yourself a favor. Don't try to fit your grieving into someone else's opinion of how you should be handling your sadness. Do what you need to do. Do you. Number 4 is, what I call like the grief reruns. It's like watching reruns on television, right? Now, I actually think, and I've said this before, is that when you're grieving the loss of somebody passing away, it is so much easier than a divorce. The reason being, this doesn't matter if you were the one who initiated the divorce or your spouse decided to leave you, right? What ends up happening is that you are actually grieving multiple different areas of your life that you thought were happening. And what it ends up feeling like for you is that you're dealing with, like, the memories just keep replaying over and over and over. And it's not just about their role as husband, it's the role as best friend, it's the role of your future, it's the role of the dreams that you have. There's all these different things rerunning inside of your mind. So I encourage you to have compassion, be patient with yourself, and make sure that you take care of your own self physically, emotionally, and spiritually, because things will get better. I promise they do on the other side. I'm an example, and so many other people are. And the last thing that I want to share with you guys is that, do what you need to do that, of course, doesn't endanger you and is legal, that helps you, right? Grieving after a divorce is something that's super personal and private, yet somehow it feels excruciatingly public, right? So here's a few suggestions. Get in your car. Go take a drive someplace, roll up the windows, listen to loud music, yell as long and as hard as you want. Go to your room, cry into your pillow, go take a run around the block, clean the garage. I love organizing. That is very therapeutic for me. Perhaps you want to take the kids on a getaway somewhere and go take a hike or organize your closet. Do something to get rid of that toxic energy. And just remember that the grieving will end at some point. So do your best in the meantime, you guys. And your best could just be crying one time less today, or I got out of bed today. That's amazing, okay? Because grief is a process. And as you move through your journey, you will get stronger. And grief is the way for healing and recovering. And once you allow yourself to grieve, you can start moving on to all that's good and fulfilling and beautiful in the days to come. So, how do you begin to cope with your grief? Well, coping with grief after divorce is not unlike coping grief after death, right? Both death and divorce are a loss of life, whether life in the physical realm or life as you know it. And in terms of coping with grief after divorce, it doesn't matter who initiated the split. I said this earlier, right? Even if the reasons of the split have little bearing on your journey through grief. And yes, there's situations and violations that naturally cause greater pain and more intense feeling than others. I'm not saying that it's the same across the board, but the stepping stones of grief are the same. Does that make sense? So the recommendations for coping with grief after the divorce are the same across the board. And I believe that really the first and foremost is to acknowledge and, just say it out loud by, yes, I get to grieve. There is a grieving process to this. And by giving yourself that permission, guys, with the roller coaster that it is, right? The messiness, the unpredictability, the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs, you will come through it on the other side with a new and hopeful lease on life. So this is the time where you get to you feel through the emotions and trust that they're going to carry you to the next place in your life, which I believe are the best gifts you can give yourself. And you are entitled to any and all feelings, just as you are entitled to the hidden silver linings and blessings that are stored within those. So here are some ways that you can cope with grieving after divorce. The first one is what I've been talking about. Grieve, expect it, allow it, right? And there are individual losses contained in the one big loss of your marriage. The loss of your husband and physical companionship, the loss of emotional and financial support, the loss of your hopes, the loss of your dreams, the loss of the plans of your future. And if you have kids, there's also a loss in the way that you've identified what family looks like, right? What home looks like, right? That carries grief too. And ultimately, every stage of grief is necessary for you to feel and inevitable. So embrace it and trust that they're there to guide you through the darkness into the light. You can't get to the light without going through the dark. You can't go backwards. You can only go forwards. And by leaning into the pain of grief, it will help you to get to the next place that you're destined to be. And that gets me to number 2 tip, which is feeling through to heal. That's what I say. Even though you are experiencing a roller coaster of emotions, you've got to make it your goal to allow yourself to release negative emotions, right? These are the emotions like anger and resentment and vengefulness. And I know from personal experience that vengefulness is strong. And when you experience the same feeling coming up over and over and over again, instead of punishing yourself, try making it a goal to just lessen it a little bit, right? Shave it down a little more each time as you begin to release it, right? The goal here is to not allow yourself to get stuck in the negative emotions for a long period of time. It's about baby steps, right? So don't punish yourself because it's still coming up. Acknowledge that it's still coming up and it's getting less each time. So if you do find yourself getting stuck in the negative emotions though, and you can't get yourself out and you've been trying and they're the same level, what I do ask is that you reach out for help. You ask somebody who's been through this to support you so that you can do something different to help you let them go. There are professionals out there. And to be honest, you guys, I'm one of them. I offer free support calls. It's in the show notes that you can reach out to me. No obligation, and I will happily help you get you on your way through. Number 3 is to create a support system, right? Surround yourself with people who value support and energize you and also get what you're going through, okay? You need to be around people that are gonna lift you up, but also hold space for your emotions and don't push you forward. And, a lot of our emotions may not have to do with just, the divorce. It could be with like having to re-enter the job market, right? Feeling uncertain about our financial futures. And you need a village to help get you through it, right? Yes, friends and family are amazing, as are people that have been through it. So reach out, find support groups, join mine, the Divorce Rehab on Facebook, so that you have connections to people that you can reach out to. And yes, guys, it's common for us to lose friendships as a result of our divorce. That is inevitable. But guess what? There are so many amazing people waiting for you to reach out and become their friend. You'll be amazed by the new and lasting connections that show up. Number 4 is to start taking care of yourself, guys. Remember, I talk about this a lot. Be as kind to yourself as you would a friend coping with grief after divorce. Really pay attention to the voices inside of your head and what they're saying to you. Try to ensure that they're speaking gently and compassionately to and about you. Get rest when you can. Try to eat healthy foods. Try to exercise, even if it's just taking a walk. Do anything that you enjoy. Be creative and don't be afraid to say no, right? And some of the best medicine, you guys, is to find something to laugh at. Thank God for technology. Find a meme. Go scroll social media, carefully, right? Because sometimes things trigger us, but any reason to smile or laugh. And number 5 is to establish a routine, guys. Divorce turns our life upside down, inside out, just all over. We're bending in ways we never knew possible. And at a time when this is inevitable, right? Any sense of regularity can be a stronghold for you and your kids. So try to create some predictability and routine, as it will provide an anchor for your ability to adapt and also for your healing and your kids. Number 6 is to let it out. Keep a journal. Okay, guys? Find a way to unload everything that is weighing heavily in your mind. It's meant to be something for you. Write without a filter. Allow yourself to just write. Perhaps a gratitude journal is helpful to you. Flip the conversation. Instead of mourning everything that you lost, focus on the things that you have. We tend to focus on the negative instead of the positive, but a gratitude journal is one of the most amazing ways to balance all that negativity in your mind with an awareness of all the beauty that you have in your midst. And number 7 is really to reach out to somebody, you guys, and get help from somebody who can help move you through this faster. Truly, getting a divorce coach or hiring a therapist is one of the best gifts you can give yourself, you guys. It's an investment in your future. And knowing that you can safely talk to somebody who gets what you've been through, it's confidential. It can be super liberating and also validating, right? Someone who specializes in divorce recovery will know how to guide you through all of the emotional stages while compassionately redirecting you back to self-love and self-confidence. Coping with grief, you guys, after divorce is a commitment you're making to your belief in the promises that are possible in this loss. And you may think for a long time that all grief promises is pain. But if you embrace and feel through it as something that's necessary and temporary, I swear one day you're going to look back at a person that is going to be only a fraction as strong and wise as you are today. What would that be like to stare back at that person? I know that I do it on an ongoing basis. I look back at who I was and see that she was only a small smidge of the strength and smarts that I'm standing here 4 years later today, wiser and stronger. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I would love to hear your thoughts. All the different ways that you can reach out to me are in the show notes. I would love, love, love to hear from you and what resonated, what landed, what you agree with, even what you disagree with. Please share it with me. Sending you all lots of love, light, and joy.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Divorced Woman's Guide podcast. If you like what you hear, please share this episode with someone you know or spread the word on social media. This is how I reach more divorcees around the world and provide them with the support they need to create their next best life. And I would also love to continue the conversation with you. So please friend me on Facebook, join my private Facebook group, The Divorce Rehab, and follow me on Instagram at Divorce Rehab with Wendy. I'll see you next time.